Welcome everyone and good morning. Today's presentation will be our new web forms and workflows suite. This is a product made by Frevo that we're going to be showing today. We're going to be going over a short PowerPoint and then getting into a live demonstration. We're going to do 4 different form demonstrations today and then an active form building session. So I'll kind of go quickly through the PowerPoint and then get into the actual forms piece so that we can get very detailed into what this can do. So everybody's on mute. At the end of the process, certainly on the bar on the right, you can ask questions along the way, and we'll take that at the end of the particular demonstration, or you can simply raise your hand, and at the end of the presentation, you certainly can ask any questions. More than willing to do this again for you in a private demonstration. Certainly can do it if you give us a couple of form samples, also allowed us to customize something specifically for you. You'll notice also in the handouts section on your panel on your right, the PowerPoint that you're looking at is available in that handout section, so you can download that yourself. All right, so this is a product add-on either to the current Eclipse product, which is the current offered solution, or the legacy DocStar application. So this is a bolt-on to that, and it is an additional module for anybody that's a current customer. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing I'm just going to go over here, obviously the benefit of this solution is the paper-based form. Get rid of the paper-based form. As we all know, paper-based forms require handwriting, requires an admin or somebody to identify what the form is, extract the data, route it possibly for additional workflow downstream, and that can be very labor intensive. So what we're talking about here is very much so a data entry automation, and it's also the ability to physically create these documents. So instead of physically filling out a form, somebody would do all the data entry for you, and then the end result would be a PDF in the document management repository, fully indexed, where then a workflow can initiate. So that's kind of the approach here. It's these web-based forms that allow for the data entry and workflow to flow. Lots of customers use this type of technology. As you see here, some of the larger ones, certainly Oracle, Pepsi, etc. It's a well-known platform, and it's something that works really well. It works on any type of mobile device, and you'll see that in our testing harness. Certainly, the benefit of this solution really, as I said, revolves around the reduction of data entry and the integration with the databases. So we're entering data. That data goes into a SQL database. So all that data then can be made available to accounting systems, to HRIS systems, to payroll systems. So we do a lot of HR type of onboarding, and you'll see that in our demonstration. And that onboarding allows us to capture all the application data and possibly, direct deposit forms and things like that that can then be pushed into the payroll system. We can do things like instant reports or time sheets where we can collect, field workers' data and be able to make that available again to your line of business. Things like the ability to do electronic signatures and workflows within the forms. Many processes require a form to be submitted and then multiple steps to happen, very much like in an HR example where there's an ID verification, a physical ID verification of somebody's passport or driver's license. That is a post-process, so we're going to keep the data resident in the form while it's being workflowed. And at the end of the process, we're actually going to create all of those PDF forms and put those into the document management repository. It is all mobile ready, meaning that it's available anywhere, anytime. You just need an active internet connection. So it's a very good usable interface. You're going to see that in our building of a form. And you'll see that it is pretty easy for most end users to execute their own forms. When it gets a little more complex, when you get in rules and hiding form elements and things like that, will require a little bit more technical experience. So really what we have is a solution that not only is going to present you with a web form essentially, but it's going to actually generate one or multiple documents So there's a form overlay process, which we'll go through, and you'll see that in our last step. But things like electronic signatures, wet signatures where you sign with your finger from a mobile device, a USB mouse from your laptop, and the ability to have that be e-sign compliant, which is unique mark unalterable. Full workflow routing of that form, you'll see that in two examples, our requisition and also our HR onboarding piece, where there's actually a multi-step routing process. We can achieve complex business rules, things like escalations. So after a period of, I submit an application, nobody's taken action on that particular application, I can notify somebody to either notify them or move it to a next step. There is full database integration bidirectionally. So what that means is that if, for instance, I log into a form, I can go out to Active Directory or database to see who my manager is and populate that automatically. When we get into things like purchase requisitions, we can pull your GL accounting lists. We can pull your vendor list into a pick list that you then select from a drop-down that might populate other data. And then we can actually take all the data that we grab in the form upon the submission and make that data available to your other systems. It is a multi-tenant supported application, which means that if you have multiple subsidiaries or you have physical locations, you can actually have different tenants with essentially their own forms platform. And each tenant can have their own authentication. LDAP authentication is just a way for you to single sign on into a application without having to log in, and that's all available. Full dynamic form elements. What I mean by that is if you, for instance, answer a question, am I 18 or older? If I hit a yes on that, it might show me an input box that might be a little bit different than if I hit no. So full dynamic capabilities, you might be used to that with the office use only on a paper-based form where that's there because you don't want the end user filling it in, but you don't have much capability to hide that from somebody because it is paper. So we can do all sorts of things like that. Full automatic validation. So if I put in an invalid email, it's going to automatically do that. You don't need to figure out some JavaScript to figure out how to validate certain fields, money fields, date fields, email fields. That's all built into the application. All right, so it is mobile aware. This is a little bit of what we call a test harness. It's part of the product. It allows us to, as you see here highlighted in red, 3 different options for how the form would be viewed within either a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone. And we'll show you that. The benefit of that is that you can optimize your forms for the best viewing. Additionally, you can use GPS tracking, so it has full geo-tracking capabilities. So we met with several nonprofit organizations that have clinicians in the field, and they want to know where they actually filled out that form. So this will give full geo-tracking capabilities as well as the IP address of where that came from for additional security and authentication. You can attach documents through your camera, as well as obviously if you're on a laptop or on a desktop computer, you can browse to your hard drive or to your Windows Explorer interface. So this will allow you to attach, trailing documents, receipts. So certainly from an expense report perspective, the ability to simply take a picture, attach it, and we support that photo gallery viewing through iOS devices as well as Android. And touchscreen signature, certainly there's no mouse when you're on a tablet, so you can touchscreen signature that particular document. Great for proof of deliveries and things like that. It's got full workflow capability. So what we do, and certainly our Clips product and DocStar has full workflow, but workflow comes free with the platform. So the benefit of this is when you want to keep the data resident in the form without having to create the paper. So situations like in a purchase request. So I request I want to order 3 new computers. I might not be I might not have picked the right supplier. It gets to the accounting folks. They can actually change who the vendor is. So the benefit of keeping the data in the form, making changes to the form, and then upon final agreement on the form, just actually physically creating that PDF of the purchase order. in that particular case. You know, these forms are available anytime, anywhere, on any device, obviously, because it's all cloud-driven. The ability to access these documents is very easy. And basically, again, once you have all the data, we can report on it. Those users that are Eclipse or DocStar users, we have a full Reports Works database module that will allow us to do any type of graphical report you'd like on any of the data that we provide. Okay, so obviously from a case study perspective, highly used, U.S. Army, current customer. They use it for the requisitioning process in their capital expenditures. And as you can see here, this is an example of one of the forms they actually use. And you know, they are obviously the U.S. Army, so give some credence to the actual product. Again, super easy design. So this is kind of the admin interface where you create the forms, and we're going to go into a little more detail on that. But as you see in the top left corner, full palette, and basically you just drag the palette item over onto the right, and it will create these form elements. Each form or the workflow associated with multiple forms is a unique URL. So that URL can be embedded in your website. We can create what we call a space, which you'll see, as well as the ability to take multiple forms and daisy chain them together. So where you have an HR onboarding, or you have something that is a multi-step process like an engineering change notice or order, something to that effect where there's multiple steps in a form, we can take the data that you enter in the first form, and when it asks, you know, maybe a form down the stream asks for the same information, maybe your date of birth, your name, your address, your social, the data you already entered will be populated forward. So this will reduce a lot of that manual keying on behalf of your applicant or your internal employee. And we can also hide form elements. So one of the benefits here is you see based on role and security, you can either hide or show different parts of that form. All right, so I'm just going to kind of quickly go over what I'm going to demo, and then we'll actually go and demonstrate this. So the first one we're going to do is an HR contract. So this is a contract that gets filled out annually by every teacher, and basically we're going to use the existing form. We're going to then route it for approval within the system. So again, automatically routing, and an employee will log in, a teacher, they'll fill out their sections, it'll essentially get routed automatically to the HR admin. The admin will then log in, sign off on it, or make changes as necessary, and then it will automatically go into the storage repository, in this case DocStar. Okay, so we're going to do that one first. The second one we're going to do is a requisition PO process. So in this particular case, you know, Brent is going to fill out a requisition for goods and services. It's going to be routed to his manager for approval, and then upon final approval, we're going to auto-gen a purchase order number. So that gets automatically generated through an incrementing number logic, and then that will be automatically created into a purchase order, which gets sent to the vendor automatically, as well as dumped into the DocStar repository. And there's some auto calculations that are also done here as well. The third one is more of just a show and kind of a show of a database-driven form. So this is an example of how we use XML-based schema forms to select the data source, pull the data, and automatically generate the control. So as you see here in the screenshot, RO number, RO date, VIN, this is an auto database, and it's automatically going out and pulling all the data from a SQL database and creating this control dynamically. So it's putting all the data into it and all the columns based on the data that's in the SQL database. Okay, this is a good example of how we can pull data from a data source into a form. So we'll go into a little detail on that. Then we're going to go into a little bit of an HR application and onboarding process here. So we're going to do a application onboarding type solution where applicant fills out an application, gets routed into DocStar for approval. The interview process initiates. If that person has been hired, an email will go out with an onboarding link. And we're going to populate all of those onboarding documents with the application data. and then basically additional attachments will ensue there. And then lastly, we'll build a very simple form given our time constraints. We'll take a field trip permission form and fill this out and automatically create that. Okay, so I'm going to get into the live demonstration now, and we'll kind of dive into. Okay, so let me just close this here. Okay. All right, so first thing first, again, it's basically just a link to access the web forms. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go into Eclipse, and within Eclipse I actually have what we call a space already set up. So when I open up Eclipse, for those users, we have what we call a buzz space. And when I click on my Forms portal link here, it's going to launch my space. Space is just a collection of forms. It's basically a website that can be auto-generated from our Forms platform that gives you, specific forms. Now you can have a space for each type or department. So I can have an HR onboarding space, or I can have an accounting space where it just has all my accounting forms. In this case, I'm going to use the login here, and we're going to log in as employee. You don't have to log in. This comes with unlimited public use, so people that just want to fill out forms on your website. So the first thing I'm going to do is an HR contract here. Okay, so you'll see at the top I have my contract creation and my manager approvals. Here's, let's say, this is generated by Brent Wessler. Employee name is John Smith. Okay, and I'm going to make this effective today. And I'm going to have this commence on, oops, sorry, 1 second. Have this starting on, let's see here. Okay, and I'm going to have the ending date out in December here. We'll make it January 1st. Okay, and we're going to give him a salary of $345,500, and we're going to do 26 pay periods. So this is a contract for a new contract for a teacher, and you're going to see at the bottom as a teacher, I'm going to select and then sign this as, John Smith. So this uses the wet signature support. Again, if you're on a mobile device, this is going to work on it with your finger, and I'm going to hit the continue button. So basically, John Smith has filled out this particular document. I'm going to log out, and then typically what would happen is an email notification would be generated, and there's all sorts of ways to do that with a link to that document. Otherwise, as a manager now, I'm logged in as a manager, I can now go to my task list and see the, in this particular case, the contract for September 21st at 10:17. I click my play button there, and it will load that particular manager approval. You can see everything that was filled in. You can either lock that information or not. And now you can see these two new boxes here. So John didn't see this, but we're going to log in, select, and I'm going to assign this, okay, as the manager. And then, just to show you, is I can now hit the view contract, and this will allow us to actually see the filled in PDF. Okay, so we took a particular contract for a school, and then we filled in all of the information automatically on that PDF, and now this particular document is fully stored in the Eclipse repository. So that's a quick example of an HR contract type example. Okay, so let's go to our second example, which will be our requisition. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to log in as a employee. Okay, so we're going to hit employee here, and we're going to go down to our requisition form. Okay, so this is more of an AP generated form. You'll see here we have a few different options. You have the ability to show additional line items, information, drop-down lists, and things like that. So I'm going to fill in the date, 22nd, and then I'm going to sign this as John Smith. Okay. And we're going to hit continue here. So once we've done that, again, an email notification might go out to our manager saying a requisition has been sent by John Smith. I'm going to log in as the manager again, and we're going to see in our task list. So our task list is for our approvers. You'll see in the requisition flow here, 1020. I'm going to click on that, and you see we're in the manager approval section, and then again the manager approval box here, which I can now sign. In this particular case, we're going to use the file connector. That's going to allow us to basically overlay the document and dump it into our repository. So if I now look for 0830-2008, this was the PO that was generated, we're going to see that particular purchase order right here. Okay, so all that metadata that was entered gets overlaid on the physical document again. And then in this particular case, you'll notice we had line item detail. That line item detail automatically populates our line items within the Eclipse database. So again, in this particular case, we're reducing a lot of that manual data entry, and we don't have to store the document. We don't have to print it out, go back in and do anything of that sort. It automatically will do that for us. So it's a nice to have, certainly. Okay. All right, so excuse me. So the next one in the next approach here, I'm going to kind of access this outside of Eclipse. So I'm just going to go to a website here, and I've created what we call a HR onboarding space. So this is really specific to HR. So it's not a accounting related or generic related. It's very specific to HR. And then again, you can embed your buttons. So I'm going to be Tom Tavares. He's going to be applying for a job. So I'm going to go into my application here, and for time savings, I've entered in a lot of the information previously. Now, one of the key attributes to this application is our ability to create this auto-incrementing applicant ID. So should Tom be lucky enough to win a job with PIF Technologies, he's going to have a lot of this data already entered when he goes to onboard. So you can see here we have these repeating controls. Repeating controls allow us to add kind of line items. We have things like tabs controls here at the top. Okay, and then the ability to attach files. So I'm going to go out and browse out and grab some demo documents here, and we're going to grab his resume. Okay, so we're attaching Tom's resume here, and upon submission, you'll see here, it automatically submits that document into the Eclipse repository. Okay, so in our particular case, I'm going to go into my workflow queue, and you're going to see Tom's resume right here at the top. Okay, so you'll notice, again, the data gets automatically put in here. It automatically flags the type, resume, and application. And you see here, not only does it create the application, but the attached resume is the following pages. So you have everything in one spot. You have his application that gets filled in, and again, this is a blank form that gets filled in all in the right spots. Okay. And now, in this particular case, we have a post process. So in our particular case, we're going to approve this particular document. So I can come in and I can type in some notes here, or simply hit the approve. And when I hit approve, it's going to then generate an email to Tom. It's basically saying, hey, we've interviewed you, Tom. We like you. We want you to onboard here. So we're going to go in, and you'll see a document email that gets generated something like this here. Okay. So with that, you'll see this particular document. Tom can download this particular application and its resume if he didn't want to, but he can simply click on the link, and this would allow him to automatically enter into the onboarding. Okay, so it targets the onboarding, and notice the applicant ID automatically pulls back everything that we knew about in his application. So it's reducing his data entry time as well. We're going to come in here, sign this as Tom. Now, in my particular example, I'm actually using multiple daisy chain forms. So as you can see here, this is an abbreviated one. Certainly, we can have as many forms as you'd like. We could skip forms. You're also going to see that this HR review, Tom will never even get to that because that is secured only to the HR manager. Okay. Now, in our case here, we're using an abbreviated kind of W4. We're going to do some calculations. So you'll see here, the 1111 automatically will calculate that based on whatever you put in. You'll notice if you put an invalid value, for instance, 2 in this box, you'll see, hey, that's, you can only enter 1 or 0 or nothing. And as you can see, it will automatically error so that you can't move forward. Okay, so Tom continues. Tom can also save and come back at a later date. So you have that functionality. The ability to add multiple bank accounts. In this case, we're going to go out and grab a check for Tom. Check, grab his check, upload that, and then sign as Tom. Oops. Okay, so Tom, continue on here. And in this case, I'm actually meshing the benefit elections piece in with your typical forms. So you see this, and we're going to select that Tom has a spouse, so he's going to get elect medical coverage for her as well. Here's the 401 retirement account information, how much I want, percentage across each plan. And I'm going to sign that. We'll continue on. And here's an abbreviated I-9. Again, if you are someone that requires a translator, you have a section for that as well, and I'm going to hit continue. And this is just going to give me, now again, you could see the form view. I can go into my W4. You can see how it actually overlaid all that form data right on the document, okay, in its current federal form. So you actually have to use that federal form. In this case, you'll notice that Tom's at step 7, but when I hit send to HR, he doesn't see step 8. Step 8 is only for our HR manager. Okay, so I'm going to log in now as Sue. Sue's our HR manager. Okay, and when Sue gets in, again, she's going to have her task list, and you're going to see here the 21st of 10/17, or 10, here it is, 10/27. You see the employee onboarding. I'm going to select that, and you're going to see now you're automatically put Sue into the HR review where she's going to do the I-9 verification of ID. She can then attach, and I always suggest using like an iPad kiosk or something like that. I'm going to attach the passport, and I'm going to attach a driver's license. You want to know a passport's fine. Select that as well, upload those, and then I'm going to sign this as Sue. Okay. And when I hit finish, what's going to happen is my 19-page onboarding packet is now going to be fully filled in and added to Tom Tavares' folder automatically. And we're going to be able to go in and not only search, but also be able to just simply go to his folder within Eclipse. So we're just waiting for that to initialize. Okay, it's done. So we're going to go in, and again, we can click on Tom Tavares and see all the particular documents, or simply type in the word Tavares. And it brings back all the documents, and we see here not only his resume and application that we have, but his I-9. Here's the full I-9 on the right. You'll notice it fills out all of that information, and then also you have at the bottom his passport and his driver's license. I know he's not a dog, but didn't really have a photo of him. So in any case, everything is available right there, and it filled out all of those particular forms in a very easy, seamless manner. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is actually build a live form. So let's go in now into our interface. So we'll go in, and we're going to log in as a actual design user. Okay, so I'm going to log in as Brent here, and I'm a design user. So this is actually creating a physical document. So I'm going to go in to our home here, and this is where we create our application. So I'm going to I've created an application. I'm going to create a new form. Click hit new here. I'm just going to create a blank one. Okay, so we have our palette items here. Okay, so we have the form. I'm going to call this field trip form. Okay, and I'm going to start off with a section. So we're going to drag this in. We'll do 2 sections for that matter. One for our field trip information and one for our emergency contract and sign off. Okay, so we're going to do field trip, and we're going to drag in some text elements here. We'll add in a multiple ones. You just literally just drag and drop these items. We can put in things like dates, trips of the dates, address, let's see, cost. So we'll use a money because there's a cost associated with the field trip. And you can move these items around. And let's see, location, address, time. We're going to want an area for emergency contact and then a phone number as well. Okay, and then we're going to do a signature block as well. So drag in a signature down here. Okay, we'll drag that down. Okay, so let's now come in and we'll say this is a date. We don't need 300. Text, we'll say that this is field venue, the venue that they're going to, the physical location, and the cost. We'll come in here. So, and then we'll come down to this section that's emergency contact, and we'll say contact name, and we'll select phone here. Okay, and there's all sorts of formatting you do, and then I'll just say hide label. Okay, so real simple, obviously, in this case. So once we're done with that, we're going to go into our PDF form. We're going to upload a PDF form. So we're going to browse out to our desktop here, and we have a HR, no, education. There we go. School trip form. Make that form fillable. We'll call it field trip. Okay, and hit OK. And I'm just going to go do one more thing here. Okay, so you'll notice here now that once we're going to map the forms, all the field elements on the right are now available. So these are all the things. So I'm just going to literally drag where we find this information, location. Now again, there's a couple fields that I'm not going to populate, but emergency contact name, the phone number, and the physical signature. Okay, so we're done with that. We're going to hit save there. We're just going to come back, and we're going to now add just the form viewer piece so we can see our resulting output. Okay, and we're going to tell it what form to use, the field trip. And we're going to say view trip form. Okay. All right, so now once we're done with that, what we're going to do is we're going to test it. So when I hit the test button, this just allows us to see what it looks like either on a tablet. This is what it will look like on a tablet. Okay. This is what it would look like on a smartphone. Okay. It's very similar. Okay, and you can interact with it. We'll just do our laptop looking. So we're going to fill out the date. There's a date picker. The venue, we'll say Red Sox game. And location to Fenway Park. I'm not sure what the address is. Boston, Massachusetts. Cost is $34.50. And you can call Brent Wessler if there's an emergency. Okay. And 62122 and my signature. So sign that. Okay, done. And now when I hit the view trip, it's now going to show us and highlight, as you can see here, where it actually generated that form. So this is, as you saw here, I would say it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes of work to actually create a form, and then this would be dumped into the DocStar system. Okay, so that's a quick example. You have the ability to share this out. So here's the link to the form, very easy. You can download the form so that it's available to somebody else, and certainly test it out, copy it, various other things you can do. There's also a full, again, geo-tracking functionality here, so I can enable detailed location, and I can also provide different security at each level, in this case at each section. So I can apply who and what can access that. So I think that's enough for today. What I'll do is certainly if there's any questions, just raise your hands. I see there's no current questions, but if you do have a question, just raise your hand and I can unmute you. Otherwise, more than happy to do this again for you at your convenience. Okay, and this is a recorded session.